Hey again, guys. Today's lesson for math is lesson 94, and that's going over two-step word problems. So we've done two-step word problems before with tax and finding change, but there's lots of different two-step word problems, and we need to make sure we're keeping track of all the information, reading everything very carefully, and thinking through every step of the problem. That's important in all word problems, but especially when you have multiple steps, you need to think about the information that you have and what you need, the steps that you need to take to find the answer. So if you open your books to 596, you can see the examples. There's actually 5 of them today, so this video might be a little longer, but it's important that we go step by step and really talk through all the problems. So 596, example 1 says, Jim is 5 years older than Allie. Allie is 2 years younger than Blanca. Blanca is 9 years old. How old is Jim? So we're going to use 2 steps to find the problem. First, we'll use Blanca's age to find Allie's age. So we know that Blanca is 9 years old. Then it says that Allie is 2 years younger than Blanca. So if Allie is 2 years younger than Blanca, and Blanca is 9, that makes Allie 7. Then, so we know Blanca's 9, Allie is 7. But we don't know how old Jim is still. And that's what it's asking us how old is Jim. So we know that Jim is 5 years older than Allie. And Allie, remember, is 7. So we just add 5 to 7, which is 12. So we now know that Jim is 12 years old. That one's a fairly simple one. Again, you just got to make sure you're going step by step and paying attention to the whole problem, reading every little bit of it. Let's move on to example 2. Example 2 says, Javon paid for 5 pounds of apples with a $10 bill. His change was $6. What was the cost of each pound of apples? So, again, he paid for 5 pounds of apples with a $10 bill, and his change was $6. What was the cost of each pound of apples? So first, we need to find out how much he actually paid, because it tells us that he paid with a $10 bill and got $6 in change. So I'm sure you guys can do this in your head. He paid $10. He got $6 in change. 10 minus 6 is 4. So he paid a total of $4 for 5 pounds of apples. So now we need to find out, that's not the end. It's not asking how much he paid. It wants to know how much each pound of apples cost. He had 5 pounds. So he paid $4 for 5 pounds of apples. So we need to divide $4 by 5 so we know that how much every pound cost. So I'm going to do a division problem. So I start with 4 divided by 5, but I can't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put my $sign here and a 0 here. But I don't need to work out 0 times 5 because we're all going to end up where we were. So now I'm going to move on to 40 divided by 5, which is 8. Then we have 8 times 5 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. But we're not done. We have to finish all the zeros. I noticed some of you made that mistake on your lesson practices. You didn't finish when you had some zeros left over. You just stopped. But you have to keep going until you've used up all the zeros, brought them all down. So 0 divided by 5 is 0. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. I have no more left. So each pound cost 80 cents. Don't forget to label. When you have word problems, don't forget to be labeling, especially with the $signs and decimals, okay? So each pound cost 80 cents. Example 3, let me erase this real quick. Example 3 says, one of the foods that Maribella feeds her pet rabbit is 2 ounces of lettuce each day. In how many days does her rabbit eat a pound of lettuce? How many pounds of lettuce does the rabbit eat in 4 months? So we know a pound is how many ounces? 16. So if the rabbit eats 2 ounces a day, the rabbit eats a pound of food every 8 days because 16 ounces divided by 2 is 8. So the rabbit's eating, so it asks that's the first part of the question. In how many days does her rabbit eat a pound of lettuce? 16 divided by 2 is 8. So it takes 8 days to eat a pound of lettuce. Now it's asking, how many pounds of lettuce does the rabbit eat in 4 months? Well, a month is around about 30 days. Let's just say 30 days. So 30 days times 4 months. So 30 times 4, which would be 3 times 4 is 12. We add a 0 to that, so it's 120 days. Then we need to divide 120 days into groups of 8 days to find the number of pounds of lettuce the rabbit eats. So we have 120. That's how many days we're looking for. Divided by 8 because it eats a pound of lettuce every 8 days. We want to know how many pounds it's going to eat in 4 months or 120 days. So 12 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times 8, 8. 12 minus 8, 4. Bring down the 0. 40 divided by 8 is 5. 5 times 8, 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. So it would eat 15 pounds of lettuce in 4 months. Okay, moving on to the next example. Make sure you're looking at these examples too, since I'm not writing everything on this little whiteboard I've got here. Example 4. Point B represents which number on this number line? So you've got the number line. I'll show you if you don't have your book in front of you, but I'm covering up the answer right there. So it tells you below this that sometimes two-step problems are not word problems. Sometimes you're going to have to do multiple steps and it's not even a word problem. But we can solve a problem like this with 2 or 3 steps of math. So we see that the distance from point A to point C is 100 because A is 100 and C is 200. So we know that there's 100 in between A and C. So B is going to be somewhere in there. And then it's divided into 4 segments. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can find out how many each segment is worth. So 100 divided by 4. If we think about money, think about quarters. There are 4 quarters in a dollar. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. So then we can count by 25s because the B is on the 3rd notch, meaning it's the 3rd 25. And if you think of quarters, think of 25, 50, 75. So the B would be 75 past 100 because this is between 100 and 200. So it's not just 75, it's 175. And our last example is example 5 at the bottom of 597. It says if y equals 2x plus 1, then what is y when x equals 3? So we're getting into some algebra here. I'll do this one on the board. So y equals 2x plus 1. Okay. So we don't know what y is because we don't know what x is. But it's asking us if x is 3, then we can figure out what y is. So first we have to plug in the 3 where the x is. So I'm going to keep my problem the same, and I'm going to put a 3 here in parentheses. And when they're right next to each other, remember that means you multiply. Don't forget the plus 1. So now we need to do this. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1, and we still have y equals. So y equals 6 plus 1, so y equals 7. You guys just did algebra. So you just have to plug in, put where it said the x is, it said to replace it with a 3. So you just multiplied 2 times 3 plus 1, which is 7. Now we can also, if you look at the next page, it continues that example. We can plug in when x is 5, we can say, we can make a little table. So when x is 3, remember y was 7. What about if x was 4? Well, I can do 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Well, what if x was 5? 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So if x is 5, y is 11. And you can see, if you did this little table, you can see that every time x goes up by 1, y is going up by 2. So you can find that pattern there. This is legit algebra, guys. You guys are so smart. You're getting to do algebra in 4th grade. Now you're going to go ahead and do the lesson practice. Page 598. Lesson practice A through F. Go ahead and do those on your own and then have someone check them to make sure you're understanding the concepts. And again, it's just a matter of paying attention, reading. Sorry, one second. So it's a matter of taking your time, making sure you're going step by step. It's going to take some practice, but you can do it if you just pay attention to what you're doing. Look at your steps, read the problem fully, check your work. That's really important too. Then once you're done with the lesson practice, you're going to go ahead and do the independent work, starting on page 598 through 601, and you're doing even problems again today, okay?